Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In today's video, I want to talk through a lot of the news that's been going around the last few days. A lot of fake news, a lot of bullshit, a lot of things that are just not true, and a lot of things that are being played up, but some real serious news within and around all of that is worth discussing, and also worth discussing why some of these stories are not true and the truth behind them. So we will get into all of that as there is a lot to discuss, including Campos, including Jim Frazier, including Bruno Fernandes, a new keeper, who knew, and more. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, the obviously the BS panel. Now it's May 6th today when I record this video. Um, we know, everybody knows, as we get towards the window, you get more and more stories, you get more and more things coming out, you get more and more talk about different things. Um, and obviously, one of the things that I always try to do is to cut through the noise a little bit and say, look, I don't always know everything. There's no doubt about that. 100% that is the case. But generally speaking, it's pretty easy. And I do have a lot of the sense of the things that are for sure bullshit. But it's always worth looking out for before getting riled up. One of the things that's crazy, like when we talk about the last couple of days, and we'll speak on each topic here in a minute, is these stories go around and then they get amplified 50 times over, so many times, over, repeated spread, and people start to form these crazy narratives in their head right off of the bat. And sometimes it's because the news is not true, and sometimes it's just because there's unknowns in the news and people run with it. And I only plead, just relax and wait, because there's always explanations coming if you can give people time to find out. Example I want to give on that is a few weeks ago when I tweeted out something about Jean-Claude Blanc stepping away from the director role at United. This was a totally true thing. But immediately people were like flying off the handle about, you know, they're losing him and he's gone now and it's another person departed. Meanwhile, of course, the guy's the CEO of Ineos Sport, had nothing to do with it. And in the end, as clarification came, it was just a nothing thing, stepping back from an active role into a different position because United had their team in place and such. But yes, I plead with you. I plead with you. When you look at something, if it just doesn't make sense, it's probably not true. Basic logic does apply. And that leads us to the first topic that we should discuss on this, which is Luis Campos and Jim Frazier. Now, there's two different stories here. Number one was about this ex-Chelsea Academy recruitment and development guy, stating that United were looking to pick him up and hire him and bring him in. Um, and then another that came randomly, Sunday night, about how United were in advanced discussions with Luis Campos to come in to United as a director. Now, I've shared with you many times the case, and it remains the case, and it's what I said on Sunday. United are very happy with the setup that they have in place right now. United are very happy with the team they've put in place right now. United are deep in their plans for recruitment this summer, for hiring, for everything that they wanted to get done this summer. They're in talks with multiple players, in fairly advanced discussions with a few, and they already have it all lined up. In addition, they have a whole team. One of the things I see people saying is, well, hey, we don't have a sporting director and yada yada. Firstly, let's just discuss something. There's function and there's structure. Structure doesn't exist for the sake of it. That's bureaucracy. Structure exists as a means of organizing the functions that are needed. If all the functions are being taken care of, then your structure is fine. Okay? And this is true of any business or any organization. Otherwise, it's just red tape and it's just hirings and bureaucracy for the sake of it, which is exactly why United have been so inefficient, and why governments are so inefficient on that note. But that's just hiring and titles for the sake of them. United are fine with the people that they have. They have a CEO in Omar Barada who is a football CEO. Understand that? He is not Ed Woodward. He is not Richard Arnold. He is a football CEO. That means he is involved in many of the functions around the actual finance and running of the football club from a football perspective, not just financial. They have financial people and they have financial teams, dealing with a lot of the stuff and assisting in a lot of the stuff, like Adam Armstrong or whatever his name was, who came from PSG, for example. That would have been a role that would have been held directly by the CEO before, but is now being held by somebody else, and that allows the CEO to be focused more on football, yada yada, right? Between Jason Wilcox and Vivell, they have sporting and head of recruitment. You might not have a Vivell at every club, and that means that you need more from your sporting director. Well, we don't in this case because we have a Vivell who has been appointed very recently on a permanent, or been made permanent, I should say, even though it was coming for some time. And so that means Wilcox can be the technical director. He can still look at and head up academy recruitment and things like that, and oversee it and academy development and all that, without reducing his overall scope or not having the time for it. So all of the functions are being covered. There's nothing to worry about it. They've been hiring to replace people leaving now, right? On the data side of it, on things like that, to add to those teams. But they're not looking to make some big substantial director hire in general. They're happy with the setup. They've had a full year of preparation with Wilcox, with Omar, and with Vivell leading up to the summer, and that is why they're in they're able to get a head start on deals, on talks, on Yap, on all of that kind of stuff, and be working on the things that they're working on. So it's just important to reiterate here: they are happy with the people that they have in place, and there's unlikely to be any kind of big significant change like that. So unless it's coming from like a David Ornstein or Fabrizio, that it's like direct in, I practically wouldn't buy it. I'm not saying there aren't other good journalists. There's guys like Ducker or whatever, but I'm using them as an example of the guys who are getting it like straight from the tap, you know, when it comes to these kinds of director roles and things like that, But it is extremely, extremely unlikely that they're going to be making any kind of significant changes to those areas. They're going to keep moving people, hiring others, etc. Like Laurie from the Athletic reported last week about further departures, but a few people coming in, and these are like these slightly different roles, but they're not going to be making some huge shakeup to the football management team. It's Omar, it's Wilcox, it's Vivell. Those are the guys running the club at this point in time from a football standpoint, alongside, of course, Ruben Amorim. And the same would go there for Jim Frazier, as as far as I know. Academy Scoop said this on Twitter as well, and I believe this to be very much true, that, again, it's not something that they're looking at this time. Like I said, Wilcox is as experienced as anybody in the youth recruitment side of managing United, and has plenty of people in the academy areas to assist with and develop these kinds of things. I mean, that was his job at City, so it's not like this is right up his alley of what he knows how to do. Moving on to Bruno Fernandes, yesterday was an explosion of talk about Bruno Fernandes to Saudi, and once again a little bit of panic, and a lot of unnecessary panic, because of course it's Bruno, right? And look, it's amazing to me how it's changed for myself included, where if you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have said, maybe we should sell Bruno if we get a good offer, and I would have taken it. And what Bruno has shown since Ruben Amorim has come in is his ability to adapt, his ability to become a better leader, his ability to be more in control, right? More resolute, more determined, but also more, I don't know what the word for it would be, calm. Most of the things about Bruno that have been maybe troubling, may have been problematic, may have been the things where you say, you cannot have those traits in a team that wants to be the best. He's knocked nearly all of them out over the last few months and been easily, right, our most important and best player in that time. But more than that, he's been a leader for the new manager in Ruben Amorim. And so, at that point in time, it makes it very clear that obviously there's just no reason for him to go anywhere. But the truth of the matter is this. It's very, very simple. One, Saudi are in for him. They were in for him last season. They were in for him 2 seasons ago. Other big clubs were in for him. Barcelona, Bayern, and others last summer. They had discussions, all of that. So here's the truth of it, okay? That's all true. They're making offers. They're having discussions. Just because his agent is there, just because his agent is talking, doesn't mean he wants to leave. It is the job of an agent to field these questions, to talk with people. They wouldn't be doing their duties and their responsibilities if they weren't looking out for all options in a player's career. That is just their job. But to make it very, very clear, Bruno is not for sale from Manchester United. He's not for sale. I said this in yesterday's podcast. I said it on the United View red carpet. He's not for sale. He's just not for sale. When Ineos gave him a new contract last year, both sides, Bruno and Ineos and the management, affirmed their intentions to be here for the long haul and to be the spearhead of this rebuild. He's a player they feel will at least play another 3-4 years at high level, and will help to carry the team forward. Amorim is secure in his position. He's being backed in full, and Bruno is like literally his favorite player in the squad. He's already said himself publicly he's going nowhere. He was brought up about Real Madrid, and he said he's going nowhere. He's not being sold. He's staying. He's already made this very, very clear. He is Amorim's guy, and for good reason, and has been such a key part of everything. It's not about the money. It's not it's just not. It's not about the money. It's not about, okay, well, what if we got the X offer? It's sort of irrelevant at this point. So he has not, I can also confirm he's definitely not told the club of any intention to leave. He's held regular talks with Amorim and with the club about next season, about where the team's going, about all these normal things, in preparation for the road ahead. There's zero intention to sell him. They've told him that. They've told him they're not looking to cash in on him. Yada yada. It's essentially comes down to that. Nothing. It would have to take a major U-turn that is not nobody's discussed. Nobody at the club has discussed that he's for sale. He's not. He has not told the club of any intention to leave, and anything but discussing his intentions to stay and be a part as long as they want to have him, which he's just said before. So unless moving forward he completely changed his mind, there's nothing in this. And he hasn't as of today. That is for sure. So I don't expect that he will. By all accounts, he and others are very excited for the future of what we can bring, and confident that we will have a better seasons and a better future in the ones that follow this one. So it's to me really not a thing to worry about in the slightest. Bruno will stay. And look, on the topic of it, on the context of it, it's kind of like this, because if you had asked me, I'm trying to think how I could demonstrate this best, right? If you had asked me, if we had no money, right? If we had no money and you were saying, well, okay, we could sell Bruno for 150 million, 120 million, let's say, and go get a bunch of players. If we had no money, then I would say, okay, you know what? You probably need to consider that genuinely. You probably do need to consider that genuinely if we had no money, because then you're saying, well, selling Bruno unlocks the ability to get Cunha and Delap and potentially a third attacker. Well, that revolutionizes our attack, and sure, it's better. Even if Bruno is better than any of them individually, we're way better as a team in our first 11 because we sell him. But that's not the reality. The reality is we have money. We can get Cunha. We can get Delap financially, right? We maybe could get somebody else like Mbumo or Gyökeres or something, depending on where we finish, without sales. So in that case, you have to say selling Bruno is only makes sense if you can get better than him, because you know what doesn't make us better as a team, and where we would go wrong is selling Bruno to get someone a little worse that allows us to get a couple more players elsewhere, because that's not going to fix the team. That it may help a little bit rounding it out, but it's not going to make us better. It's going to keep us around where we are and simply give us more depth or more rotation or something like that. And in that instance, you don't sell your best players. If it's to kickstart a rebuild and you have no money, then that's one thing. But we have the money. We have the cash available. We have the ability to make these deals anyway due to the planning that they've done. And then in addition to that, you have other players to sell to raise the funds. So in an ideal world, you get your best front three in place, Cunha, a striker, and Bruno. And you still have Ahmad. And, it's like, would you sell Ahmad? No, you wouldn't, because where are you going to get better than him? All it's going to do is mean, okay, yeah, you could go buy a midfielder. Fine. You sell Bruno, you get an attacker, you get a midfielder, you have a better midfield. Okay. But you're still worse off in the attack than you were before. So that's not what United want to do. That's where it doesn't make sense to me. We have plenty of other ways to build the team. The financials are being resolved to where we can build this team without selling our best players and reducing our ceiling of where we can go. And so that in that instance, given the financials we have, it's a different situation. There was a point where I would have been pro selling Bruno, in part because of her performance, but in part also because it looked like at the time we couldn't really spend much or anything without letting him go, without making a big sale. And in that case, I would have been like, yeah, anybody can go, because we have to just tear up and rebuild the entire team. But with the financial planning that they've made, with the cuts, with the things like that, and the ability to spend, that we can spend money without it, and then the possibility of Champions League on top, then there's no reason to sell your best players or to do anything like that. You just don't. You just don't at that point in time. So I don't think that don't think they will. I'm quite positive there's nothing further to discuss on Bruno Fernandes. So we'll kind of leave it at that on Bruno. Moving on to strikers. So, it's interesting because obviously we had like the Osimhen thing all kind of played down, put away, put off to the side by Ornstein and things like that. So this report is a little bit because we've had it really essentially, like, it was very definitive, from David Ornstein that Osimhen is not an option, and I checked it out and got the same thing. But again, let's just say that we could assume for a moment that potentially that this has some truth in it. Maybe it's not totally a bust, because if we look at the report that comes out of this, it would explain, why we're not necessarily pursuing a Victor Osimhen at this time. And so if we take a look at it here, from Santi, it says, first meeting took place, the striker wants 12 million euros by year. Now, if you look at that from a gross perspective, that's like 400,000 a week in pounds, almost 500,000 a week in euros. It must be gross, because if it's net, it's only like 175,000 pounds a week, which is, as we know, about half of what Osimhen was demanding and asking for last time. So if there's any truth that we made contact, then this would explain why he's not particularly an option, as Ornstein has said, and things like that. So it's a little bit of a strange one, because we've just had it strongly ruled out. And it's another one where, like, look, we can cope, and I could sit here and say, well, hopefully it was Ornstein were wrong, and what I was told directly following that after asking was wrong, and that United have done a full U-turn and decided Osimhen is the guy. And I would be so happy should that be the case. I'd be so happy. I would love to sit here and say, I was wrong. We are, in fact, going for Osimhen like originally I heard. and we ruled it out, but now we've ruled it back on. Oh man, I would love to say that. I'd be so happy because it would mean we could get Victor Osimhen. But I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it. And then when you look at those fees, then I especially doubt it because 500,000 a week is an enormous amount of money. In that case, and something 400,000 pounds, and so far well above what we've done. You know what I mean? Like what we'd be willing to do and how it would throw off the balance of everything, especially when you have these discussions like bringing it back to Bruno. Well, then you got to talk to Bruno again. You bring someone like that and say, well, wait, you're our most important player. So we already gave you a new bumper to like 250. Well, now we're going to have to bump you up to 350 again. And then the wage structure gets fucking crazy and everything goes out of control. So, maybe there was some talks. Maybe there's some truth in it. But that doesn't mean we'll be going for him. Now, it says that the main priority is Victor Gyökeres, but the deal's not easy. Delap and another European striker on the short list. It doesn't say the name. I don't know who it would be. Maybe it's Ekitike. Maybe it's somebody like that. Don't know. According to this report. I'm not sure what to think about it. What I will say is this, though. I have strong vibes that they are looking, look, here's, okay, let's speak a little more factually. I said that after Lyon, after they got through the Lyon leg, they would start talking about how to sign players on the basis we might get Champions League and making some of those contacts. And that's what makes me a little bit curious, like, what if this is that? What if this is that? Not what if, but what if part of this is that? Like, not we know that that's possible. They had some chats with Mastantuono since then. We've had some chats about Brian Mbeumo since then. We've had some chats with Victor Gyökeres since then. We have. Now, I'm not sure about it because we had this whole talk about, if he's waiting to see if we're in Champions League, then it's not going to happen. But that may not be true. That it may even just be that it's about we can't afford him if we're not in Champions League, which is different than he wouldn't join us without Champions League. Those could be two different discussions. It was never totally confirmed. We just had Amram's comments, which his stance is totally correct, that if the player doesn't want to join without Champions League, then that's an issue. If it's about us being able to afford it, that's a totally different story. But it just I'm sitting here looking and saying, I do know for sure we could miss out on Liam Delap, and we are still assessing other options. And so I think that's where these stories are coming from. Mbeumo, Mastantuono, Gyökeres, maybe another striker aside from that. And maybe, just maybe there's a smallest truth in rechecking on Osimhen's situation to just ask one more time, any chance you'd take a bit less money? If the answer is no, then it's probably still a non-starter. But regardless, it could be that we had just a brief little chat to check in and ask about that. So those are my thoughts on it. What I do believe is we are checking out all the alternatives to Delap, and some more expensive. Not even, not because it changes our targets, but because we could miss out on Delap anyway. But we would have more money for other targets. And other potential options. So we're clearly still looking at that second signing beyond Cunha and even potentially third, but at least a second signing to say we know we need at least two attackers in. So we want to make sure we've got a lot of options lined up. And it's looking like Mbeumo, Mastantuono, Gyökeres, and maybe somebody else might be in there. And just maybe we've checked in on Osimhen again as well. So just one to keep an eye on. That's all. Just one to keep an eye on. That's it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is one that very close to my heart. I've been speaking about this for 6 months minimum, 8 months, maybe even longer. And I'm the only one because how many times have we gone and seen reports, oh, goalkeeper's not a priority. Oh, United aren't really looking at a goalkeeper. We've seen these reports over and over and over and over again. And yet, I told you, they are. They've been looking at goalkeepers all fucking season because Ruben Amorim wants safe hands. Now, Ruben Amorim likes Onana, but Ruben Amorim is not particularly like a soft, cuddly guy. He has very high standards at the same time as he is a good manager of men. Onana is who he's got for the season. We all watched by India on Sunday. we need Onana to perform if we're to get through the season, if we're to win the Europa League. Um, but there's also the potential, of course, that Onana stays and Bayindir leaves and we afford something. And I mentioned recently that if Bayindir leaves, we would be able to afford a 20-25 million keeper simply because of the ease of shifting and all of that. But we have been looking at keepers all year. We've mentioned others, and in the past, and what I said before was Ruben Amorim wants safe hands at the back. And when we take a look at this name that is given to us now from Fabrizio Romano, and there's some small reports before, it fits perfectly. United have been looking at keepers, and here's a great option that is showing up. Manchester United have had Vanya Milinkovic-Savic to their shortlist for a new goalkeeper. He, of course, is a former Manchester United Academy player from 10 years ago on. He says initial contacts have took place for the Torino goalkeeper among candidates for next season. So there's others. There's others. Now the word is, or the rumor is, he might only be in the costing in the range of 20 to 25 million. I think there's some reports before about that. Uh, we look at Milinkovic-Savic and look, this may be the worst way to assess keepers fully. You gotta actually look at them a little bit because it's all stylistic and things when it comes to keepers. But what I will say is, what did I say about what Ruben Amorim wanted? He wanted safe hands. This is the best stat for that. P post shot XG minus goals allowed. Essentially, this means how much is he preventing goals based on their XG from happening, right? Because that matters how good a keeper is. If it's high XG chances he's saving regularly, he's reducing the amount of goals that one might have conceded. This is what shot stopping. So he is one of the best shot stoppers, and he's a big guy. So this would be really, to me, kind of ideal. We can see he's not a crazy like play out the back guy. It's not necessarily in that important to an Amarim team to do that. Here we can look at a few different stats as well on him. You can see here save percentage high, um, goals against. He's in a good bracket for. He's look at his penalty kicks. Oh, he's got a crazy save percentage on penalty kicks. Okay, I think he saved 2 out of 3, which is not a high number, but you don't get that many. You know, he's a big dude. He's a big dude, makes big saves. He's 6'7" and a half. This is a giant, 28 years old, experienced. This is a keeper. This is a keeper, right? A shot stopping, cross grabbing, tall ass keeper, and somebody that I would be very happy to see United get on a good deal. United are looking at keepers. How many times do I have to say that? It feels like 2 years ago when I kept saying they're going to replace David De Gea, and it like all the way up until like June 25th, it finally was understood that they were replacing David De Gea. But they've been looking at keepers all year. It is something they want to sign, but they haven't want to reduce all the confidence that Onana has left at the same time. So I can understand why it's a little hush hush, but they're looking at keepers, and there's going to be more options probably come to the table. But this is potentially a very good one, so that is exciting to me. It's a must. United have to have a keeper. So we'll keep track of that. Okay, that's what I have for today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. Let me know your thoughts below. Links below. You can join the Patreon as well. I definitely recommend it leading into summer. A lot of good chat, a lot of good little sneak peeks of things and info go in there. I've also added a few tiers that include some merchandise that comes through just for fun. So there's something you get back for signing up, but there's, bunch of different tiers with different perks and things like that. But the basic one gives you access to the channels and everything to come hang out. And it is a crazy, crazy place to be come summer. Okay. So I hope to see you all soon. I'll probably be live a bit later today. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.